Hello, I'm Bill Martin. I'd like to welcome you to On the Banks. On the Banks is a fraternity podcast where we meet brothers, hear their stories, and celebrate the shared values of Phi Gamma Delta. Our guest for this segment is a 1988 graduate of the University of Akron, Jim Eckelberry. 5 years ago, Jim, his wife Lori, and their daughters Christina and Courtney started a nonprofit organization called Katie's Kids to provide a special kind of support to children in Stark County, Ohio, where they live. In this segment today, in our conversation, we're going to learn about the spirit behind Katie's Kids and how it makes a difference in Stark County. And first, let me give you a geography lesson on where Stark County is. It's in Northeast Ohio, just south of Cleveland and Akron. The county seat is Canton, which happens to be home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which is the way most people may be familiar with it. So, Jim Eckelberry, thanks for being with us from Stark County, Ohio today.
I'm honored to be here. Thanks, Bill.
Looking forward to finding out more about some great work that you and your family and a lot of other people are doing. To start, tell us why you and your family established Katie's Kids.
Sure. Well, unfortunately, it's tragedy that kind of got Katie's Kids moving on February 21st, 2020, a day I can never forget. We received a phone call that my middle daughter, I have three girls, my middle daughter, Caitlin Eckelberry, had been killed by a drunk driver.
Mm.
Um, she was at the top of her life. She had just graduated, had just signed a contract to be a physician assistant with a very nice salary. She had just signed the week before. We had found her an apartment over by the hospital. She was with the love of her life, and then unfortunately, this tragedy hit on a Friday night as she was coming back from volunteering. She was coaching, helping coach a college softball team, and she was coming home late at night and from that, and was hit by another 23-year-old girl that was over three times the limit and killed instantly. Um, so from that point, now we didn't immediately think about Katie's Kids, but Katie had a tremendous legacy of helping others, and we wanted to do something. I always say we wanted to do something selfishly, was to keep her legacy alive. And unselfishly, what could we do? And we decided that helping children in Stark County and some of the surrounding counties that were lower income and might need some help with some self-esteem issues. As my wife's a teacher, she sees these things a lot. We kind of put two and two together and came up with a nonprofit organization called Katie's Kids, which basically goes out mainly in Stark County and helps kids with self-esteem kind of issues. It might be registration for sports. It's things of that nature, basketball shoes, things that aren't necessary. They're not the necessary items, food, clothing. They're the wraparound, kind of the self-esteem issues. And so we came up with that, and it's been going great ever since, and heals us a little bit every time we give a donation.
Sure. Well, I would think it helps kids' self-esteem, not just in allowing them to participate in something, but to have the equipment, the sneakers that they need for
Right.
something, the mitt for baseball, and to be there to walk in prepared and to have not be self-conscious, as they
Correct.
as they go in and they're dealing with other kids. So in this unimaginable grief that your family was dealing with, you saw this as a way to deal with your grief and provide a legacy for Katie. How did you get the organization up and running? From the early financing, getting word around to identify people who might have a need, and then that process of selecting people or deciding who would receive
Correct.
your
Yeah.
support.
Yeah. So, obviously, and I attribute a lot of this to my undergraduate Fiji days and being involved with nonprofits, and we had a chapter that was really goal oriented, and so I learned a lot being the president of the chapter and trying to put things like this together, and kind of carried that through in my professional career. So when this came up, I reached out to experts. We have a totally volunteer board, but I reached out to a Fiji brother of mine, who is a CPA, sold his business, a couple of other CPAs, a couple of teachers, and I basically tried to put a team together that said, this is what we're thinking about doing. What do we all think? And so that's what started everything, was that team. And so how do we do this? And I can't take all the credit. There's a national organization called Alice's Kids that one of my board members said, it sounds like what we want to do is similar to this group that I've heard of. And so I said I'd never have heard of them. So I reached out to the executive director and said, look, we're this little group in Stark County, Ohio, and we're thinking about doing something similar to what you're doing nationally. And they said, look, we love the idea. We don't do a whole lot in Ohio, and any way we can help you. So they kind of gave us the boilerplate of, the do's and the don'ts. And then basically our board, myself, others, went out to the schools and started talking about, listen, we'd love to help kids that are in financial need. I don't know what that means exactly, but it can be sporting equipment, registration fees, driver fees, AP fees, it can be all those things, and we want to help. And it started off slow. We were giving away money, but it started pretty slow. I think the first year was 230 children that we helped, but we putting all the team together, and the Fiji support kind of was the catalyst to kind of move us forward.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's a great story, and you're putting the team together and trying to get organized, and at the same time do good as well. So you're working on all elements of getting this thing up and going. And 230 kids to start out in the early going probably isn't a bad record either.
No.
Now, you mentioned some of the types of things that you all help with, the types of requests you get. So sports equipment, camp fees. You mentioned AP exam fees, even renting musical instruments for kids who want to be in the band, just to name a few. Did you start out with an intention to cover such a pretty broad array of needs, or did it just develop in response to the requests that you got?
Oh, it developed. Yeah. I mean, the underlying was the self-esteem of kids. And one thing, maybe going back on how we actually worked the process, we went to the educators and the professionals in nonprofit world and said, this is what we want to do, because we didn't want to be the ones that are qualifying students or families as being, financially in need. So we went to them and said, these are the things that we want to do. As children, at schools, they have these family support service specialists that deal with low-income families. And we basically said, listen, send us an application. We made it as simple as possible. It was like 10 questions, which they appreciate, because everything in a family support specialist in the nonprofit world is a lot of red tape. We created a very short form that said, we don't even want to know. This is all anonymous. We don't deal with the family or the child directly. So we said, okay, who are you trying to help? Why are you trying to help them? What can we do? Who can we send a check to? If it's fees, or we do a lot in electronic gift cards. A child might need a baseball glove, or like right now I'm into basketball shoes. I had 3 applications this morning were for all basketball shoes. It's amazing how costly basketball shoes have become. So we did 3 Dick's electronic gift cards today for $130 each to these children in need, and I send it directly to the family support specialist,
Yeah.
and then they print it or forward it to the family so that we can be anonymous. And it also is kind of neat because the parent, they don't have to say that it came from a nonprofit or a charitable organization. They can just say, hey, look, we're going to go out and get you some shoes. We're going to do this. They can look like the hero.
Sure.
We're anonymous. We don't want the glory. Occasionally we get it, but we would rather have the family and the parents or the guardians get that honor.
Sure, sure. So those we call them family resource specialists, I think, in our
Yes,
educational system here. But for those types of folks who are social workers, in essence, they don't have a lot of resources to work with a lot of times when they get those requests for help or find out about those needs. So you're not only helping them do their job and kind of be heroes to some extent and meet the needs that their hearts tell them they really want to meet, but the parents and guardians as well and the children. So a
absolutely.
lot of radiating positive effects from what you're doing. How many kids have you assisted so far in the last 5 years?
Well, as I stated, we had 230 the first year. Now we're just at about 2,000 kids as of this morning.
Total
So it's
for the
ramped up quickly.
yes.
We're probably expecting about 600, little over 600 children this year,
Yeah.
which going from 230 to 600, it's been amazing. And it's kind of sad because it's just our little county in Stark
Yeah.
County, and I think about, we'll talk about dollars, but we've given out $200,000 in just this little county, and I can't imagine, the state and the country and all the needs that are out there, and we're just handling this little county of Stark County, and it's been 200,000 over the last 4 years and 2,000 kids. So
Yes.
the math tells you our gifts are about $100 on average.
Mhm.
Um, we don't do, the largest we would probably do is about $250.
Yes.
So, we want to keep going into the future. And if we did too large of items, we might not be around.
Yes. Understood.
Yeah.
So how do you raise money? How over the course and then today and in your current plans, how do you raise money?
Yeah. So we have a golf outing every year, and we get about 250 golfers.
Mhm.
So we have a morning shotgun and an afternoon shotgun, and we do lots of work and try to get these extremely valuable raffle prizes that are 300 to 500 to 600 in value, and we'll net about 45 to $50,000 from that event. And then the biggest thing is John O'Neill, a fraternity brother that's on our board, reached out to the graduate brothers that were in and around when I graduated in '88. And every year we have 50 to 60 graduate brothers that have given. The first year was, I think, about $10,000. Over the last 4 years, that group has given over $70,000. So the combination of the golf outing, the Fiji's getting together, and we also get individual and corporate folks that hear about us and want to support us. And we have a couple of foundations that have heard about us and feel like we're right in their wheelhouse, and so they donate to us as well. We've been, I got all of my board members on saying, look, we're going to be this little organization, right? We're going to give to a couple hundred kids a year, and maybe we'll give out $20,000, and this will be easy. Well, it's turned into a little more work. They're all volunteers, but it's turned into a little bit of work. And now, like I said, we expect to be maybe at $100,000 a year in the next couple of years if we keep going. And so I always got to make sure my board members are still happy and that I'm not overworking them too much.
Understood. You need some more elves.
That's correct.
Yeah. So regarding the finances, so you talked a little bit about your financial growth to date, and what that means in terms of number of kids you can support. So for this year, I think you said you expect to help about 600. Did you
Hmm.
say? Was that right?
Yep.
So you're in a position to help about 600 kids, say at an average of $100 each, right?
Correct.
But and
Yep.
is that all, or do you pretty much in any given year, do you pretty much spend everything that you have raised for that year, or do you have some longer term goals to put some money aside, and what are the long
Right.
term goals?
Yeah. So, when things happen, Caitlin and our family obviously is well loved, but we do know that golf outings, things of that nature. We do a concert, a small concert. Um, there will be a period where those will start. I'm not going to be able to get 250 golfers every year, and the corporate sponsors won't be there. So we've actually, with John O'Neill, the Fijis, John's brother Jeff, some others, we've and our donors know this, so we not only collect for a given year in donations or grants that we're giving out, we're also building an endowment.
Hmm.
So we've got almost $500,000 that's in our endowment right now, that we figure if it's earning 4 or 5%, that will continue us into the future. And the goal is to grow that as we grow with kids. And in case the golf outing, or in case the big foundations or the corporate sponsors tend to, you know, pull back a little bit on their giving, we'll always be there in the future. And so that's the intent, is to build a good foundation so that we're there.
Yes, very good. Yeah. So you've mentioned a couple of times your Akron chapter brothers being involved, some in leadership roles and in planning and all of that. Any other areas where the Akron Fijis have been involved and supported you, or will be supporting you as you move forward?
Sure. Yeah. Well, as I said, the graduate brothers from day one. I mean, from a emotional and from a monetary standpoint, have been amazing. And I mean, every fraternity has a close group, but Akron at that time, back in the '80s, was kind of coming together as a chapter, and um, the 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 graduates that were part of that have really been close. We get together quite a bit, and we do different things. So that's always been there, and it's really nice. We just found out the undergraduate chapter was looking for a new nonprofit to support, because somebody they were supporting in the past was changing direction a little bit. And they interviewed several nonprofits, including Katie's Kids. And so I went and presented to the chapter about what we do. And we found out a few weeks ago that the undergraduate chapter is taking on Katie's Kids
Great.
for some philanthropy projects in the future. And, so we're really excited to be working with them as we move forward. We're just putting all the planning together. But the Fiji world has been amazing for what we've
Mhm.
tried to do here.
Sure. Well, the neat thing about the chapter getting involved is that as they're involved as undergraduates, they'll be more likely to also be supportive and involved. You're building a base of support from them as they go forward and add to those graduate ranks who are aware of Katie's Kids and want to be supportive. The other thing that comes to mind for you is that brothers in the Akron chapter typically have many of them have been from the Akron area and they stay in the northeastern Ohio area. So
Right.
they're close. A lot of those brothers are close by, and
Correct.
much easier for them to be engaged. So
Yeah.
what kind of along that line of your having your fraternity brothers being so supportive, uh, what have been some of your most gratifying experiences over the last 5 years in this journey?
There's many. I probably get at least one application every day, and within that application, there's always a, why does the family or the child need help? And um, they're all most of them are very sad about why. But I pulled these out because these are two quotes that I thought are just really, and they both come from our family support specialist. But one of them stated, I'm quoting her. I just gave my student the Dick's electronic gift card for softball cleats from Katie's Kids, and her response was like nothing I've ever seen before. Pure joy, gratefulness, and astonishment that someone would do this for her.
Mhm.
When you read things like that, I take for granted, and I talk to folks all the time. When my kids were growing up, they were into softball and lots of things, and it was always $20 for this, $40 for that. We got to get a new bat. So, a lot of money for softball bats and this and that. And we were fortunate. We were handing $50 for prom, whatever it might be, prom dresses. I don't want to even get into that with three girls, but these families are worried about, number one, food, and where and how they're going to stay living with utilities. So this Dick's gift card. I remember this. It was, a $60 gift card. And I remember the family support specialist calling me up with tears in her eyes saying, you're not going to believe what happened. And then she sent me what was going on.
Yeah,
That makes us feel really good.
sure.
And, here's another one that the program is absolutely hands down the best resource our schools could ever have imagined. I can't express enough how grateful and blessed we all are to have such a wonderful people in our lives. Katie's beautiful heart lives on with each and every student that is assisted through your generosity.
Wow.
Those are the things, and I say that's the selfish reason for my family is when we give these things out. It it heals us. I mean, we're never going to be healed. It's a tremendous void, life altering, situation. But those are the things every day that I see and get that just kind of lift our spirits, lift the board in what they're doing. And I try to share those with them. And even though we're anonymous, but we do try to share them. And it's amazing.
Gives you the juice to keep
Yes.
on going. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, if any of our listeners want to learn more about Katie's Kids or perhaps make a donation, what can they do?
Oh, sure. Well, we have a website, and it's www.katieskids14.org. And I'll spell this out because Katie can be spelled a lot of different ways, but it's KATIES, the number 14, which was her college softball number, .org. And there's you can learn more about Katie's Kids there. You can make donation there. You can simply call us. I'd love to talk to anybody that would like to hear more.
Great, super. Well, Jim, it's been a great conversation. Um, we can't even fathom the loss and the grief that have energized and given spirit to this project. But so good to see that you're getting a reward every single day from what you're doing. And you're not only providing a great legacy for your daughter, but you're also serving as an example for Fiji brothers in living out our commitment to service as well. As you alluded to from what you
Yes,
learned as an undergraduate about the benefits of helping other people. So it's
correct.
great. We wish you all the luck in the world, you and your family and your supporters, as you continue to have a positive impact in your community.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, Bill. I'm very proud to be a Fiji.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you make me proud to be a Fiji as well. Thank you. Brothers, there are many more interesting stories in Fiji land. I hope you'll join us again for On the Banks, where we meet some of those brothers, share their stories, and celebrate the shared values of our fraternity. In the meantime, I'm mighty proud to be a Fiji.